We're talking about how to design a life you love. We live in a world full of quick fixes, fast advice, but we're talking about something refreshingly different, I think. It's an invitation really to slow down and connect with nature and design your life with intention. Founded by sisters Emily and Lucy, Wildflowers, Wild Futures is a startup that's born from personal passion and professional expertise, blending creativity, futures thinking, which we're going to be delving into, and yet a love of nature into really empowering experiences for women. We know it was International Women's Day over the weekend. We want to keep this conversation going and help you build your dream life. So today we're talking about their journey, why futures thinking isn't about predicting, but preparing, and how their nature-inspired workshops are planting the seeds of personal growth. Thank you both so much for being with us today. And I would love to hear a little bit more about where you've come from to understand where you're going and where you want to take women. So Emily, maybe you could give us a little insight into your background and how your experience in consumer insights has led you to partner with your sister and bring you back to Dubai in some ways. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Thanks so much for having us on here. So I spent about 20 years being a consumer insight specialist internationally. In fact, I spent a fantastic 8 years here in Dubai, and then I moved to New York to do the same. During the pandemic, like many of us, I wanted to learn new skills, and I decided to go to design school in New York to learn about something called design thinking.
Not just any design school.
Oh,
being
sorry,
modest.
Yeah. Parsons School of Design. They do like to say they're probably the best design school in America. Anyway, I was fascinated with looking at how humans can solve problems. Of course, during the pandemic, many of us found ingenious ways to work together, to collaborate, to solve problems that were happening for us during that time. And I was inspired to go and study it in some depth. Whilst I was at Parsons, I then also got exposed to something called futures thinking, which we'll talk about in a second, which I thought was a magical tool. Often it's used in business and enterprise, but I was always much more interested in how we can deploy these tools for ourselves in our own personal lives and really watch ourselves grow. So that's my background. And recently I left the corporate world and decided to really build my dream future, which was to work with my sister and launch this business that we hope will help loads of other women around the world.
Lucy, you've been in Dubai for how long now?
Hi, Helen. Thanks
Hi.
for having me. I've been in Dubai for 14 years.
And your experience as, marketing leader, lifestyle influencer as well, is obviously playing a huge role in this startup. But really, to my mind, really identifying what you think Dubai-based women need. And I wondered if you could explain a little bit about the concept of Wild Futures and maybe route it to here. What do you think Dubai women are really perhaps struggling with right now?
I think Dubai is an incredible place for all of us to live in. There's a very common theme of entrepreneurial spirit as well as passion with careers. But at the same time, it's very much you have to be driven and you have to keep changing and keep evolving. What we do is we tend to lean into what we're currently working on immediately. And
We're fighting fires left, right and centre.
I find that it's immediate. Today, tomorrow, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? When we look at the Wild Futures thinking in creative design manifestation is using tools to think about the future, but trends that we have in our lives now that can help us to get towards that future.
Now, you both grew up in quite a rural environment. Emily, how do you think that connection to nature has influenced the work that you're looking to do today?
That's a great question. In fact, the funniest thing is when my parents used to take us to the mountains in France every year, and in fact, I was the one that stayed in the car to listen in to my Walkman.
And now you're the mum who's like, look at that view.
Yes,
have you seen those clouds?
Exactly. But my link to Dubai, when I lived here for 8 years, I would be mostly out in the wadis and at Fossil Rock at weekends, running, climbing, doing all sorts of things with nature. And it's been a passion of mine ever since I lived in Dubai. I also think that nature is the best designer. And we only have to look at the Burj Khalifa, which was inspired by the desert, by the spider lily, in fact, to tell us that by connecting with nature, we can ask nature and get some great ideas about how to design, because nature really is very efficient. And just being in nature helps us connect more with who we are. So it's a major part of what we do.
It can be. I mean, it can be anything from like, a 10-minute barefoot walk. And we know just even looking at, how petals form, how good it is for our mental health and, our nervous system. But it's also, to my mind, kind of taking our cues from nature. And, Lucy, as you're saying, we just don't stop here. And we expect ourselves to be productive endlessly, that every single day is going to be, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And when we look at how nature works, and to kind of think about, I don't know, a tree, for example, or a flower, it's not in bloom every day, of the year. There is this idea of blooming, but then also resting. And that doesn't mean you're not being productive. It just means productivity can look different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And in fact, you've got it absolutely right. So you would be, it makes me feel great that the concept works. But yeah, I mean, the other thing that we often look at is we try and think about, how does your life exist as an ecosystem? What's your nutrients? What are the weeds that you might need to remove? What are the gardening tasks that you should do every month to really work towards that blossoming garden in future? So I think nature for us has just provided so many inspirations in terms of activities. For example, we do a garden party where we start with a planting exercise.
We're exploring how women can design their futures creatively, consciously, and with a little bit of help from nature. Joining us in studio are sisters Emily and Lucy, the founders of Wildflowers Wild Futures. It's a startup just launched that blends design thinking, futures thinking, and the grounding power of nature to help women grow and shape their lives. So, from ice climbing in the Catskills to curating creative events here in Dubai, we're talking about their approach to personal growth. And I'd love to hear from you. What aspects do you think would help you build your dream life? What do you want from your future? We've had health, love, money, natural 4 seasons, says Jennifer. It's interesting to think about the impact that the weather has on us. And looking out today, it's a bit of a gloomy one. And I have to say, it did bring me down a little bit. It's really interesting how our environment does shape us. I want to get into some of the nuts and bolts, actually, Emily, because I think a lot of people are lucky enough to maybe go through life with very distinct goals in mind, and that can be relating to earning potentially, or job titles, or family. And a lot of people, and I would kind of include myself in this, are quite happily, kind of bumbling along, worried that maybe they're not reaching their full potential. So when you're working with women, either individually or in groups, what are some of the questions you invite them to ask themselves, or exercises that you can do to go, oh, actually, that is the life that I want?
It's a great question. And in fact, that was probably the funnest part of the design of this whole method, was thinking of the activity. So a few that I could suggest that are really fun to do. Looking at your present is the most important starting point for thinking about the future, which a lot of people find unusual, right? Because the future is far off. So we start getting to know our present in a new way. So one of the activities that I can recommend you can all try is find 10 items from around your home that belong to you, that mean something to you. Because first of all, you're going to get to know what matters to you. To your point, Helen, really, we have to understand deeply what matters to us to be able to find that future that we might not have imagined. So if you find what we call the furniture of your life, that's what I call that activity, and talk to a friend about what you find, and swap ideas and see what that says about you as a person.
So I'm saying, I'm trying to think about what I would choose when I think about my home, and would it be like a ring from my grandmother, or a shell from a beach, or I don't know, a favourite book? Am I in the right kind of ballpark, or does it really not matter at all?
Well, you are in the right kind of ballpark, because that's traditionally what people would absolutely pick, but it actually doesn't matter at all. And in fact, the more random in some ways, the better, because design thinking is all about putting together unusual items and coming up with something amazing. Another activity that I love is something called the Journal of Strange Things. So for a week, consciously note down anything unusual, different, new that you spot in your activities that interests you. You don't have to say why it interests you, just take those notes. A lot of people say, oh, I want to journal, but I haven't got a prompt and I don't know what to journal about. Well, this one makes it super easy. And by looking at those strange things in your life, you're starting to pick out what we call emerging signs of the future, because you're starting to get interested in something new. And Dubai is so full of new things. I think it would be the perfect testing ground for that activity particularly.
Lucy, who do you think needs this the most when we think about, and not just Dubai, because I know you can work internationally as well, but, having done workshops already and obviously a lot of research before launching, is there a demographic or a personality type or someone at a different age or stage you think you would really get a lot out of this?
I actually already believe that it's women of our age and a little bit older in, dare I say it, the perimenopause or the menopausal time, where we've got to a point in our lives where we might have already achieved and established a lot of goals, but now all of a sudden we feel different about a lot of things that we took for granted. And being able to say, I've still got very good, valid years left and I've got things to bring to people. How do I do it now?
Because presumably, and men as well as women, can get to a stage in their 30s, 40s where you feel trapped. You feel trapped by what you've used to earning and the lifestyle that you've set up around that kind of lifestyle creep of going, well, I'm used to being in this house and the kids going to this school or having certain things. And if I give up and start again and pivot, then what does that mean? And this isn't presumably, Emily, about putting a bomb under your life and changing everything, but can it be about making tweaks to improve your overall happiness or live a little bit more aligned to your values?
Absolutely. It is all about making tweaks. We don't believe in actually putting a bomb under your life because that's not realistic for most people. Yeah. So why we start in the present is exactly that. Because if there's no present in your future, really it is about a dramatic departure, which most people would find very disorientating. So once you get to know yourself in the present, you can start thinking about what would be a natural future for you based on what's going on in your present. And of course, we can introduce, using your imagination, some amazing elements that you wouldn't have expected. But we're very much about grounding yourself in your now and changing as much your present as changing your future. That's why we feel the approach is so amazing and helpful, to be honest.
Well, we're actually going to use some of the messages that have been coming in on 4001 to actually bring some of these methods to life. But do keep those messages coming in terms of what your dream life would look like. Tamara says, I want to open a bookstore for romance novels. Only women working there and events in the evenings. Lewis says, my dream life is living in a small house by the sea, surrounded by nature where I can write and paint and rescue dogs. That sounds rather nice. And I love this idea of learning languages. Mahmood says, love this, going to try it. My dream life involves travelling the world, experiencing different cultures and learning new skills that help me grow personally and creatively, and eating. And Sadie saying, for me, the dream is simple. More slow mornings, spending time in my garden, cooking for loved ones and feeling a deeper connection to the earth. Does anyone want to pay me for that? 4001 if you want to support Sadie's dream life. But we are going to be coming to some of your questions as well. Anonymous is asking about how can I use this to create better balance between work and personal life. Meg's asking about fitting creative activities into a busy schedule. And we've also had a message here saying, I'm dreaming of having a sabbatical for 6 months, but how can I convince my boss? 4001. What would your dream life look like? And if you've got any questions for Emily and Lucy in the studio this afternoon, you're more than welcome to reach out. It's Wild Flowers, Wild Futures. If you want to send me the flower emoji, I'll send you their Instagram so you can have a nosy and find out more.
Your ARN News.
I'm Serena Kelly, Israel's.
Tell me, what would you be doing if you could design your dream life? That's what we're talking about this hour. Emily and Lucy are with us from Wildflowers, Wild Futures, who are offering women the tools to design their futures with creativity, with collaboration, a little bit of help from Mother Nature, and using the beautiful garden concept on Shakeside Road to inspire as well. Some really interesting messages, guys. We are going to come to text line in just a few minutes, but if it's okay with you, I'd love to get a few of the definitions, just kind of wrap my head around them a little bit, if that's all right. To your mind, what exactly is futures thinking, and how do you think it differs from simply predicting what's to come?
Yeah, so futures thinking is a way of, I guess, being proactive about your life or your business or any particular situation in the world. It was born really in the world of business, and businesses that use it are proven to perhaps offer more shareholder value and better protect themselves against the volatility and the headwinds that, we all know about that hit us. It has a basic premise that it starts in the present, right? So you begin to look around what's happening in the present. So let's talk about how you would do that for yourself. You would say, what's going on for me right now? What are some trends around Dubai or around my life that are interesting? As I mentioned, the Journal of Strange Things is how you get to that. So you start looking at yourself in a different way. You could almost treat yourself as a product that you're designing for, and you've got to make sure that you're protected against the volatility of the future. So first of all, you understand yourself right now. You look at what matters to you, what you're into. We've had so many of our female participants saying, I just don't even give time to myself to ask myself what I actually like.
I mean, I can't think of many people that actually do. I mean, Lucy, you're a busy working mum, and many of the women you've been working with so far are in that same boat. And it's such a kind of tired cliche of, if you can't fill from an empty cup. But how often do you actually sit down, and I'm not asking you in particular, to think, what do I want? What's working for me? What's not? When you had the initial workshop last week, the garden concept, what were some of the kind of themes that you were noticing from participants?
There were very funny themes that people wanted to reach towards in terms of, new loves or new holidays and those usual kind of tick points. But there were other themes of people wanting to develop new skills and change career paths. And also somebody mentioned volunteering in the future and retiring early. So there was a huge mixed bag of different wishes from all of the women. But the common theme definitely is, I've now got time to actually think about something. I'm allowing myself to think about what do I want.
Because that's one of my greatest fears, to be honest, is this idea of wasting time and not recognising opportunities and looking back going, gosh, I was just on this treadmill of just go, 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 as so many people are, men, women from 20s up to, 60s, 70s of, I did this at university, so of course I've got to do that as a career, and I'm going to do that until I die, because that was the expectation. But, as you said before, Lucy, when there are women who might be in that kind of 40s, 50s age group, we tragically used to have menopause and then die. And now we've got opportunity to live for decades and live really happy, valuable lives that maybe once our kids are a bit older, then are kind of ours again, if that makes sense. And what about backcasting? I've never heard of this phrase before, Emily. Break it down.
Yes, it's an important one. So when we finish looking at our present, the fun really starts because you get to really design your future. So we use a bunch of design skills, creativity, and you basically write the story of that desired future that you want, that dream future, and you make it really detailed and creative. We make sure that you sketch, and we use sensorial items like fabric, scrapbooking, all of the things that we need to give ourselves permission to do. So you create basically a scenario of your dream future. And then comes the crucial bit, because if it stays just a scenario, it's not going to happen. So backcasting is where you start with your vision of the future, your scenario, and you work backwards in time to the present, and you build a bridge of actions, experiments, things that you can do that link up present to future. And that's why it's so powerful, because by doing what's called the backcasting, we just call it a bridge, really, it changes your present, right? Because you start working right now on stuff that's going to get you towards that dream future. But it also changes your life immediately, and people want immediate change.
Of course, we're all impatient, but I think this is a really important distinction to make between just manifesting. There's been obviously a lot on TikTok and in real life about that as well. That writing a few sentences down, it's not enough to actually affect any change. You actually do need to take steps and do research and have, a mindset shift around something that you deserve and want to do, and what can you change today in order to have that realised. And I think that's been one of the big criticisms of manifestation is that, you can't just like magic language your dream into reality. Right, let's go to some text messages, because I think there's some really, really valuable messages here saying, how can I use this thinking to create a better balance between my work and personal life? Anonymous saying, I constantly feel torn between building my career, says in brackets, I'm 44, and missing out on the kids growing up. Well, you're talking to three working mother, Anonymous. Where do you think that could be helpful?
So I think what I'd recommend is, one, I hear you on both of those questions, and I think they're great questions for futures thinking. It would start by really, of course, looking at your present, but then a lot of work would go into the scenario design here of really looking deeply at what balance looks like for you between work and personal life. And we would work a lot on really being very imaginative and creative and getting lots of influences about what that could look like. We'd design a very detailed scenario together, and then we'd look at backcasting, right? So we would look at what are the steps that we need to take to get you from that vision of the future and link it up with your present. And then we'd start working on those small actions. And by the way, we're not talking about dramatic change or revolution here. We're talking about tweaks, as you said, Helen, at the beginning, experiments. Some of them might not work. And that's the beauty of design thinking, is that you really go into it knowing that some stuff will fail. But in doing so, you might experience something amazing.
And it's all information.
Yeah, it's like, I think Kennedy once said, we might not get to the moon, but we'll learn so much by trying. And that really encapsulates what this is all about. So it's all in the scenario design, really, and having a deep vision of what that perfect balance looks like, and then working back to make sure that we start developing that right now.
Emily and Lucy in the studio today from Wildflowers, Wild Futures. Another anonymous message saying, what about confidence? I struggle with self-doubt, never did well at school, always feel like I won't make much money. How can I build belief in my own ideas and visions? Oh, that's huge. And we haven't got very long.
It's a beautiful question. And I think, to Lucy's point, I think all of us at this particular age with, the M word, the menopause, we all perhaps have self-doubt and lack of confidence. Again, I would say we would create a vision of what you look like at your most confident, most wonderful self. We would do lots of beautiful activities as well. Probably in a group or a workshop setting would be ideal, because in our workshops, we share, we celebrate. So people, our participants, share stuff. They talk, they do public speaking in a very comforting and caring environment. So the workshop in itself is a mechanism for building female confidence in a supportive environment.
And I'm sure a lot of people would be surprised when they look around a table and see women they might consider to be absolutely bossing it, and then the walls can come down and go, actually, I feel the same. I'm lacking confidence in those Me Too moments of connection.
Absolutely. And everything that we do is about really helping women to be their best selves and feel great about who they are right now, with what they have around them. That's very much also something. It's not about going out and spending a bunch of money on new stuff. It's really about, let's look at your life right now. Let's find those items from around your life that mean something to you. And we design a scenario that's very much got your signature on it.
We've run out of time. Have run out of questions, though, which goes to show you really onto something here, ladies. Lucy, to your mind, what's been your favourite part of this process so far in terms of working with your sister, and what are you excited about for the future of this?
I'm loving working with my sister. I'm learning so much from her, and she's a huge influence on my life since I was born, since she's my older sister. It was great to do the event at the Garden Concept. It was a beautiful, warm morning of love and learning for everybody involved. The next steps are we're going to do a launch in New York. We're already talking about something in London, and just taking it wherever we can. But here in Dubai, we'll be doing a lot more events at the Garden Concept, so we're excited to see you all.
Watch this space, and you're going to be splitting your time, Emily, between Dubai and New York, but you can work remotely as well. And if people want to send me a flower emoji or the word flower with your permission, is it best to share the Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, and that has the links to our website. You can see a little bit more about what one of our workshops looks like and be convinced that it's a safe, comforting place, and get to know us both. And we would love to hear from you and build, we're both actively redesigning our futures. So come join us and do the same.
And that can be on a one-on-one basis if you've got a group of women in your life and you'd like to explore this together, or indeed you are a corporate who are listening and going, this is something I think would be amazing for Women's Network or a group of employees. I really hope that's been valuable. You've really made me think, guys. I think there might be a little bit of less mindless scrolling tonight, and me having a little look around my house, finding some objects that have meaning to me. But yeah, really, really valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Helen.
you.
Thanks so much.
Absolute pleasure.